Hello, welcome to the Alone Show. I'm your host, John Alone. In this episode, no regulars, because reasons. Again, as for our guest, also no guest. It's going to be one of those episodes again, where I'd be just talking about something in particular. And that episode, I'm going to be talking about this project that me, Eric, Shadowminer, and possibly Froyo, I don't know what his name is anymore. And the rest of the team for Bits, as at least what was the original name was, to bring back a once defunct platform that most people vaguely remember. And when people do remember it, it would either be for good or whether it be for bad. I don't blame those that may not have good memories of this platform. However, it was what it is and it is what it was. So, the project. So again, most people know that this project is Byte, and for those who don't know, it's the Byte app. So, and I know I've discussed this like over a year ago with Shadowminer and Eric. Well, back when Eric had his own podcast, but decided, nah, I don't want to do this podcast thing anymore. It's too tiring. Like, I don't blame him. But anyway, so for those who aren't aware of the project, or who are just tuning in for the first time, here is the story. Now, you may heard of Vine. Surely everyone knows what Vine is. But do you know the guy that made it? Fair enough. This guy was Dom Hoffman. He was the guy that founded Vine and made Vine the success that it is today. Even today, people are still referencing Vine videos. Like, that's how iconic Vine was. Like, surely everyone knows it. Of all ages, they know it. So the story starts when the moment Vine got shut down by Twitter that had ownership into its later stages of its existence. Of course, rightfully, Dom Hoffman was sad. He was furiating. He was outraged at the fact that Twitter decided to just shut down Vine and not have, well, not much backing. They're just gonna let Vine go with the flow and just boom. That's the end of Vine then. To this day, I still don't understand why Vine got shut down, given its success. However, I guess we'll never know until it's too late. So, Vine got shut down, Dom Hoffman's outraged, and yeah, he wants to bring back the magic that Vine had. And for a few years, he was wanting to bring it back. Ever since Vine got shut down, he wanted to bring it back. And the name originally was going to be called V2 because Vine 2.0, that's the reference. However, for legal reasons, Twitter had the naming rights to Vine, so Dom Hoffman couldn't use V2. So he went back to the drawing board and came up with a different name. That name was Byte. That's when the name Byte was born. But that's just the start of it. Before Byte was ever released publicly on January 24th, 2020, just like he planned for V2, there was stages of closed beta, so there's like a small group of people just testing out Byte to ensure that everything's working properly and all the mechanics are in proper form. And after the closed betas were being successful, and then it would then come to a point that the original Byte team would open the beta to more and more people. I was one of those people that was got to be part of the public beta that happened in September of 2019. And oh boy, the fun was only beginning. Those were the days. It was so good. And over the months between September till December, it was all great. Funs, laughs and giggles, unicorns and rainbows and roses. And then, of course, there was an announcement around December 2019. Guys, the time is coming. Byte is going to be launched publicly. And then, January 24th, 2020, Byte was launched to the public, and everyone was going crazy. Everyone's talking about, oh my gosh, the new coming of Vine. And then, 3 weeks later, active the active user figures just dipped down drastically. It's disastrous. I know. It's very unfortunate how first few weeks everyone was using Byte, but after realizing that it wasn't going to be that easy to become famous like people did on Vine, they thought, oh, what's the point? I'll never be famous. Then they just left that Byte. Like a few weeks after it launched publicly in 2020. I mean, I don't blame them. I'd be disappointed too. However, the community was strong. And that's something that most people don't know about Byte. The community forums was one of the backbones to to literally Byte, the OG Byte success. If it wasn't for the Byte community forums, Byte would not be at the point it was back then. Like, Byte would just be, well, it would have ended. It would have ended a lot sooner than expected. And despite the fact the community was strong, there was a point it came to an end. But for now, it's all looking good. After launch, it was still going great, and there was plans to have the creators program where you could get paid for creating content, which is great because, well, I don't know how to explain it. There's people that enjoy making content on social media, and they want to make it their full-time job. So of course, it's understandable that there should be some kind of incentive to have some kind of monetary incentive. Nonetheless, the creator program, or at least the application to have people join it, it was open for a couple of weeks, I think. And I did apply for it, although I was not fortunate to be one of those people to be part of the program. There were a few content creators on Byte that did got to be part of it, and yeah, it went pretty great. Although there is an issue, there had been one issue with the creators program that, and this was an issue with Byte from the very beginning. When Don Hoffman got the servers running and he did the closed betas for Byte, there wasn't much investors. Don Hoffman was funding Byte from his own pocket. Good on him. However, how long would that last? That is the question I had at the time. I wasn't sure if it was going to last. Was there enough money to keep Byte going? However, I can't argue with his determination and dedication. I'll give him that. So yeah, all I know from the creator program, it was kind of like the creator fund for TikTok, where you could get paid to make content. Now, it wasn't clear how creators would be paid and how much they would be paid based on what metrics. All I do know is writers that were part of the creator program, they would get paid for the content they made. Now, just like the run with the original Byte, the creator program got shut down after a few months because, well, the financial constraints. There wasn't enough money in OG Byte's budget to keep on continuing paying the creators. However, they said that they would learn from what they did with the creator program and utilize that knowledge for the future. So, alright, so I know I'm going off back and forth. So that I'm just looking back with Byte, and actually, something I should have mentioned sooner. Unlike most episodes where they were recorded like a month in advance, so if you look back the last few episodes of the podcast, you would hear the regulars at Risk and Eric talking about the US presidential election, which already happened. That was recorded at the time before it happened. This episode in particular, I'm recording this the same day that this came out. So this is the most up-to-date episode ever, if you don't count episodes from the first ever season. Back then, I was just getting started and didn't have a backlog. However, as of this releasing, Shadowminer has said that a week or two, maybe 2 weeks, the revamped Byte is going to be out publicly, they are not planning to do a beta. Because the only thing that Shadowminer said that needs to be tested, ship. I need to look at it. Actually, looking back at Byte's obstacles, besides the money constraints, like having the monies to fund the servers that Byte was operating, which is actually integral to Byte operations. Byte, it's not just an algorithm that Byte was running off to promote content to users. There was another app I was a part of, which actually had a shorter lifespan than Byte did. It only lasted a month, and it was in beta. The answer to that was Loop. Now, Loop is the closest thing to Vine than any other app could ever say they are. When people say when people say TikTok was the new Vine, no, not even close. What about Reels? No, absolutely not. Loop, on the other hand, well, specifically Loop.lol, yeah, that was literally a Vine reskin. Everything about Loop.lol was literally like what Vine was back in the day. And I think with Loop.lol and Byte, they both had the same problem. There wasn't enough money to pay the people that were doing the coding and fixing the bugs on the platforms, and there wasn't enough money to fund the servers that both Loop.lol and Byte were running on. Now, there's still a noticeable community in Loop.lol. However, it's just not as active because, well, firstly, it lasted a month, and secondly, I don't know what the second reason could be. But regardless of the time span, I think something that stuck out to me with Byte is that there was a community spirit. Everything and how Byte operated, it was always about the community. The Byte community forums, again, was one of the backbones to how Byte became so damn successful. And this was true during the closed beta. Like, that's how people knew when there was a closed beta, or people knew that a public beta that was open to most people was happening before Byte even launched publicly. If you were part of the Byte community forums back then, you would certainly be in the know. You have all the knowledge of what goes on in Byte. And something I realized looking back, most people that were parts of the Byte community, they used the community forums more often and more frequently and longer throughout the days and the weeks than they did on the actual Byte app, which was very interesting. So even when, and actually there's actually more to the story. I know I'm always getting sidetracked. So to recap so far, Vine got shut down. Dom Hoffman, he was not happy about it. He wants to bring the magic of Vine back. He was going to call it V2, but can't because of Twitter having the naming rights. So he went to the drawing board, decided, let's call it Byte. The name stuck. The community forums was set up to establish some kind of community that will use the app, as well as provide notifications and updates on when closed betas were happening. And then January 24th, 2020, everyone was going crazy about Byte for like a couple weeks. Then the number of active users each week just dipped down a bit. However, even when the number of active users dipped down on Byte, the community was still strong. The community forums were still active. They may not be using the app all that often, but they were using the community forums more often, because that's where the real communication came from. Not many people on Byte cared all that much about how many likes they have, or being such big celebrities. And I know I mentioned that in the first few weeks that people were using Byte, they thought, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait to be famous like people did on Vine did," and then realized, "Oh, what's the point?" And they left. Again, I can't argue with that. However, the very few that stayed, they were they were with Byte since day one. Not day one of public launch, but day one of when the closed beta stages took place. And I think that was around March of 2019. Like, that's when the first closed Byte beta happened. That's how far back the Byte app went. So there is history and community spirit. To this day, it's still going strong. So the numbers dipped down. Not many people on Byte were using the app. They were mainly using the community forums because that's where most of the talking happened. It's where the discussion took place. But because of the community forums and the discussion that took place, that actually helped with maintaining the vibes and maintaining the community spirit on the Byte app, even though there wasn't many people on Byte. Another interesting event that happened, it was around July to August of 2020, back when Trump was in his first term as the President of the United States. He said, "We're going to ban TikTok. It has Chinese spyware. America's the greatest country. We'll do what we can to stop the Chinese spies stealing American data." Yeah, he originally wanted to ban TikTok because Chinese spyware and whatever Meta was telling Congress. That's just me. That's what I've heard. However, back when Trump was in his first term as president, he wanted to ban TikTok. US TikTok users were like, "Oh my gosh, TikTok's gonna get banned. What are we gonna do?" They were looking at different social media apps that they can all just jump to and post videos on there from now on. The one app that stood out to everyone in the US that were on TikTok mainly, hearing about the news that TikTok could get banned, at least the first time it was going around, it was Byte. Why did they go to Byte? Because the same guy that created Byte was also the same guy that created Vine. That is their reason. Dom Hoffman, the guy that made Byte, and the guy that especially made Vine, that was their reason for going to Byte. Because they believe if a guy that made Vine created another social media app, again, they believe they could be famous. I'm not too sure because I didn't ask those TikTok US users that came over to Byte at the time. But I do know that Dom Hoffman was the guy that made an app that gave birth to one of the most iconic memes that a lot of people to this day would reference like weekly. Not daily, but on a weekly basis they would. A semi-weekly basis they would reference Vine videos. But yeah, July, August of 2020 was a fun time where a lot of people on TikTok that were from the US, they flowed over to Byte because when they heard news that TikTok was going to get banned, they all migrated to Byte and they tried to continue with their social media life on Byte like it did on TikTok. Now, a couple of issues when the US TikTok wave happened. This is what most people in the Byte community call it, the US TikTok wave. When the US TikTok wave happened, and this is for reference. Back when Byte was in its beta stage, majority of users that were part of the Byte community were either millennials or Generation X. This is mainly older adults that were using Byte. Now there were a few Gen Z people, like people close to my age. There were fewer people my age using Byte, but not as much as millennials or Gen X adults alone. Like if you count them each one alone, they have like nearly double amount of people on Byte as to Gen Z. There's still Gen Z people on Byte, but there were just mainly more adults at an older age using Byte. So when the TikTok wave happened, there was a huge influx of Gen Z users coming over to Byte. And the moment that they arrived onto Byte, how on earth am I going to tell you guys this? The Gen Z tried to bully the millennials off the app. The Gen Z, the moment they arrived to Byte from TikTok, they tried to bully out the millennials from Byte, even though they used Byte before they did. And so that's just a generational divide. There was some kind of generation war going on Byte. Now, at some point, we tried to learn and tolerate with our differences, but at the time, there were a handful amount of Gen Z users from TikTok from the United States, hearing that TikTok was going to get banned. The first few videos they saw was a couple of adults that were either mostly millennials, maybe Gen X, but for some reason, US TikTok users that were Gen Z, they were mainly going after millennials. Honestly, I feel sorry for the Byte millennials at the time. Yeah, we have our differences, but come on, they don't deserve that. So there was a couple. Okay, hold on. Let me get my train of thought back. Now, the way that Gen Z from US TikTok tried to bully out millennials, there were these fairy comments that, although the words are critical, they look mean. However, the only thing that throws people off is the emojis that they put at the end of the very mean text. They put smiley heart emojis, they use fairies and sparkles. It's kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like there's a difference between what you say and how you say it. That's what these fairy comments are. In text, you say something mean, but the emojis used are positive. And this is what I find funny. At least I find it funny. They say something mean to someone, but they say like, it's a good thing. I care about you. I love you guys. At first I find it off-putting, but I try to find humor, and to this day, right now, looking back at it, I find it quite hilarious. Because looking at the reactions, they're not sure how on earth are they supposed to react to this? That's what I find funny. Reactions to those fairy comments. Now, during the TikTok wave, although there were other issues, I actually got along with a couple of the Gen Z users. Now, I haven't talked to them at the time, and I especially don't talk to them today. However, they were great to be around. This is as honest as I can be. I'm not saying I'm not saying they're the worst people in the world. I am certainly not saying they have not contributed anything good. I just can't think of anything else to say about the US TikTok Gen Z users that came in the TikTok wave because, well, I was busy doing my own thing on Byte. I was still posting content on Byte, and of course, I was still on the community forums where there wasn't much beef or tea going on. Okay, there is a couple more things about during the TikTok wave that happened. So, firstly, there there was this guy. I'm not sure whereabouts in the US he was from, but I am certain he was from a state that's next to New York. It's not in New York State, but it's close. I'm guessing either Pennsylvania or New Jersey. But anyway, there was this guy. I'm not going to mention his name. Not that I do remember, kind of, but I want to respect his privacy because at first people really liked the guy. He was very nice, but later on we turned out that he did something that shall not be mentioned, nor ever be tolerated or appreciated. From what I've heard about him, before, back when I knew he was a great guy, and everyone in the bike community, at least the millennial Gen X side of Byte, that they liked the guy. Hearing about what was going on, dang, that just hits deep. That just hits deep. However, regards now about this lad somewhere around Pennsylvania, New Jersey. I'm thinking it might be New Jersey. So no, this is not about the terrible incident that he did. However, I can't remember what it was, but I know there was a couple of times. I'm talking about this one time on the Byte community forum. Actually, this is I know what it is now. So how the big beef, the spilling of the tea that happened on the Byte community forum. It started, I mentioned this guy from New Jersey that was part of Byte, and everyone on the Millennial Gen X side of Byte liked the guy, and I was talking about, I'm trying to find a way to explain it. Okay, so whilst the TikTok wave is going on, and I know there was been the generational divide and beef tea between the two generations. At this time, I don't know why I have not mentioned this sooner. Another app came into play. That app was called Clash. The same people that were running Clash or operated Clash when it first launched in the summer of 2020 were the same guys that were very big on Vine. I think one of them was Brennan McNerney. That's the only name I can remember that was big on Vine. There were other big Vine stars, just can't remember their names exactly. But yeah, Clash, there was another app called Clash that was actually tried to be on par with Byte in terms of bringing back the magic of Vine that Vine had, and hearing about what was and hearing about users using Clash. I'm not sure if there were any people using Clash, but before the beef started on the community forum, there was a conversation going on the Byte, the OG Byte community Discord server, not to be confused with the current Byte community Discord server that me, Eric, and Shadowminer are using right now and also running. That's completely different. On the OG Byte community Discord server that was run by the original Byte team, there was discussions going on about what the staff of the original Clash team were doing, and they were sharing videos going about. I can't remember exactly because I'm not. It's not. I'm not too sure. I just don't care too much either. But I know that a lot of the US TikTok Gen Z Byte users they were triggered. They did not like what the Clash team were joking about. They said, from what I've heard, they said it was something that is deemed inappropriate. Again, I'm not too sure, but that's what I think they said something like that. And now this is not what this beef was on for the Byte community forums. They were I think that discussion got carried onto the Byte community forums. Then I name dropped the guy from New Jersey that was on Byte, respected by Gen X and millennial side of Byte. An example of how, regardless of generational divide, we may not have the same humor. We can always find ways to come together, unite, despite our differences. That's at least I think I remember how I mentioned it. I'm still not too sure, but I know that that was something that happened on the Byte community forums from discussions that got carried over from the OG Byte community Discord server that was run by the OG Byte community forums team. When I mentioned the guy from New Jersey, respected by the millennial side of Byte, the Gen X side, the TikTok Gen Z side of Byte, they were furious. How can you support the guy? He's a pervert. He's a pedophile. That's what they said. It's not the exact words, but whatever sentence the sentence they said to me when that tea was spilled, it felt something like that. And I think that's what they were mad about, which I absolutely agree with them. Cannot argue. I'm definitely against such behaviors like that. At the time, I had no idea. I did not know. I wasn't fully aware of what people were doing at the time. Then, over time, I think there was more discussions regarding to the Clash staff on the community forums going on. And then the millennial side of Byte have been called attention of this, and I think one of the users of Byte, and I think one of them actually runs the Byte Homies Discord server, which again, it is a separate Discord server from the OG Byte community Discord server and the new Byte community Discord server that me, Eric, and Shadowminer are running. Hallie, who was running the Byte Homies Discord server and a big creator on the millennial side of Byte, when she heard about the Gen Z side of Byte talking crap about the guy from New Jersey, Hallie's like, nah, no, I'm about to throw down. And then a lot of and all the other millennial Byte users jumped in on the action and go back and forth with the Gen Z side of Byte. Again, this is generational war type of shit that we're talking about. And this has really stuck out to me. These incidences on Byte, although there has been great moments, but it is also important to know that although there has been good moments, and there have been good moments, and then we enjoy all of the memories and all the jokes we had, I cannot deny, and I think everyone knows this too, there had been issues. And I know we're talking about the wars and the beef, the tease, the generational wars and stuff, but I will end on one more thing. There was one more one more beef that went on between the Gen Z and the millennial side of Byte. And this was when a couple of the Gen Z side of Byte actually came over onto the Byte Homies Discord server, which was back at the time which was ran by Sky Mask. He's from Scotland and he was also a big Byte creator. However, as of this recording, I think it's mainly Hallie Bang that's the one that's mainly operating by Homie's Discord server. So good on her. So a couple of the people on the Gen Z side of Byte came over to the Byte Homies Discord server, and from what I've seen, discussions were pretty normal. And this is actually one of the this is one of the times that I actually will defend the Gen Z side of Byte. Because they were just talking. I've seen most of the Gen Z side of Byte just talking on the Byte Homies Discord server like they normally would. I didn't see much of a problem with it. That's how I see it. But then, for whatever reason, and I still don't know now, and to this day, I still do not know how, something escalated. Like, there were the Gen Z side and the millennial side of Byte. Once again, I believe, they was going back and forth. They were there was some kind of arguing going on, and the results of arguing between the two sides got so bad. The cleaner mods, which is what you call the moderators of the Byte Homies Discord server, they had to report most of the Gen Z side of Byte users for, I'm not sure what they said, but it's just how they were communicating with other people on Byte Homies Discord server. That was the justification. That was the reason why the cleaner moderators gave them the warning. And after a handful of warnings, these users, that are part of the Gen Z side of Byte, they were banned from the Byte Homies Discord server. That's my rough recollection. This is how I roughly recall that moment. And I was talking with Sky Mask and trying to look for the chat that we had. Alright, so I had a look at the conversation that me and Sky Mask had in the past, and there was someone that was getting the records to. And when I talk about records, it's talking about having the evidence collected that proves that people from the Gen Z side of Byte are not the good people that they are. Now, at the time, I try to be balanced, I try to be impartial with incidences like this. However, there have been aspects with a lot of these beef, wars, and arguments. It's just so complicated, and I definitely understand that not everyone wants to relive those memories. However, for educational and historical purposes, I do believe it's important to discuss those incidences that there have that there have been times that we will get into arguments and we will have differences. However the case, I'm not too sure. All I know is it was not it, there was a brief period of time that just wasn't very good with the arguments. But all in all, there were people from the Gen Z side of Byte that I did get along, and I enjoyed being in their company, and maybe I did collaboration with them in content together. However, that's, again, other than the beefs and all the good aspects, that's all I can remember. But yeah, it it was July, so July, August of 2020. That was very, very eventful for Byte. Like, you had to be there to witness the the tragedies and all of the tea that's been spilt, the the madness that went on Byte during that summer of 2020. Look, I know people that like drama, they will be amused. But I know there are people that just doesn't like drama. Fair enough. I can argue with that. I absolutely agree. However, my whole life, I didn't have much of a choice. It's either I'm there or I'm over here. And I always witness the terribles and all the goods in life, including with Byte. I know, and I'm aware that I had discussed the wars and the beef and the generational divide within Byte, but I can guarantee you that this is only the beginning of the worst that's yet to come for Byte. Yeah, at least the OG Byte. But even then, there were still good moments that I'd like to recall in terms of Byte's history. So I did mention that there was another app created by the same guys that were big on Vine called Clash. Now Clash, it was a separate app and it was only available to users in the US and Canada. I'm from the UK, so I did not have access to Byte, at least the original Clash. I did not have access to that. I really wanted to, but I just couldn't. And over time, when we first heard of Clash, well, I did a community forum post comparing Byte with Clash, and man, everyone was there was a massive discussion going on, and of course, like I mentioned, that the Gen Z side of Byte, I've heard that the Clash staff said or did something inappropriate. I don't know what it was exactly, nor I not see how it was inappropriate. It was all kind of fuzzy to me, and I wasn't fully aware at the time. But knowing that now, I would be cautious with witnessing such incidences. However, in regards to the staff of the original Clash app, they were just going on with their own thing. So did Byte, and I mentioned minutes ago that Byte did have issues with finances and money. Like, paying the original Byte team and keeping the service up, there came a point that that money was going to run out, and Dom Hoffman got his hands tied and didn't have much of a choice. He had to sell what is essentially left of the Byte community, including the community forums, to the original Clash team. Because the thing is, A, they already have an infrastructure in terms of paying the creators. Even though Byte did have that with the creator program in the past, it only lasted a few months. Unlike Clash, when they launched, they had a vision of trying to bring back the magic of Vine, but with the twist of having strong tools for monetization. And I think that's the reason why Clash was an ideal target for Dom Hoffman to go for in terms of handing over ownership of the Byte community to them. Because they had the tools and utilization for monetization. Something that Byte, the original Byte team did try, but only lasted a few months. There were things that this just didn't go so well, but they take the knowledge they've learned from it from the future and thought, yeah, I don't know what to go out from there. But yeah, that's the reason why Byte was handed over to Clash. Money problems with Byte in terms of staff and servers. Clash 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 had the monetization down, and they had a line of investors too. And although they did announce they were going to help with keeping the Byte community running, it was not clear at the time how will the handover go. Will Byte be separate? Will Byte still be a separate app? Will Byte be rebranded to something else? One thing's for sure, that the original Clash team, they are, well, at least the Clash team, they're going to be the ones taking over the Byte community. The OG Clash team would then become the new Byte team. That's what the handover was, essentially. And after I think a couple months after the announcement, I think it then came to the point that I can't remember when it was that I'll have to look. Alright, I'm just looking at it now. It's been a while discussing Byte, so I understand, forgive me. So the announcement on January 26th, 2021, when Clash said that they would be acquiring Byte, the deal was finalized the following month. They said they were going to merge two apps into one, and they were going to call it Clash. The Byte branding, it's all going to go. The Clash team, the Clash branding, that's going to take over what is essentially the old Byte community. And when that was mentioned, a lot of people in the Byte community were not too happy about it. And like I said, if you think the beef and the wars and all the arguments that happened in the summer of 2020 were bad, this was still only the beginning. That would lead to a handful more problems later down the line. So the thing is, I was already beta tester for Byte for the entirety of Byte's existence, so I was not too sure about was Byte still available in the App Store after the announcement and up until Clash, the new Clash app was launched publicly. But all I do know is around October of 2021, the new Clash app that used the OG Byte technological infrastructure and community base, that was launched publicly. Clash 2 also had a couple of beta testing, but the moment that a new update was launched, I think the Clash beta testing would just end. Like, go and update the newest version. I go to the App Store, update the new Clash app, update the latest version of the new Clash app, and use the Clash app as if I was a regular user and not a beta tester. So I think that's something did differently. I think the Clash team wanted the users that were once part of the Byte community to use the latest version of Byte. I mean Clash. I think there was concern about Byte users preserving to the history of the Byte app. I cannot argue with that. I agree with them wholeheartedly. I think there were a few people in the Byte community that wanted to hold on so dearly to the old Byte user interface. However, the way that Clash did the beta testing, I don't think the Byte community was going to hold on to that much longer. So after October 2021, other than the community not being too happy about the acquisition or takeover, people still use the new Clash up normally as they did on Byte. However, and I did mention this doing that two-parter Byte a creative community episode with Shadowminer and Eric like over a year ago, that after Clash acquired Byte, and especially after the OG Byte app was rebranded to the new Clash app, which was separate to the OG Clash app, which was a separate app to the OG Byte app. I know that's confusing. I understand. However, that's how it was. Two separate apps merged into one. After the merger, the Clash team, which was the new Byte team, they were not so open and they did not update frequently as the OG Byte team did with the new Byte or the Clash community people. And this is one of the big criticisms that the Byte community has with the Clash team in general. And I think there was one person that was part of the OG Byte team, but works as the safe the safety management person for the new Clash team. I'm not sure what the position was called, but the person that reached out to me in regards to when we launched the two-part episode for Byte to create a community, they told me their side of the story, saying that although there had been arguments, people in the Byte community were not happy. I think the Clash team did not know or did not have any idea what they were doing. That's what this person said. I think that person's name was Carl. Yeah, I think it was Carl. Yeah, Carl that was part of both the OG Byte team and the new Clash team after the merger. They said that the new Clash team had no idea what they were getting themselves into. They weren't too sure on app development. Now that makes more sense. Now, I know I'm saying this as they are the bad guys and the horrible people. Now, there have been a few things that did that they shouldn't be done, but I don't want to be the guy that speaks so negatively. Even though I have mentioned like the negative side of Byte, it's very conflicting. However, I'm just being direct and honest and saying it as it is. I know not people would agree with it. I understand. However, I have my perspective on Byte, and everyone else on the as part of the Byte community have their perspective on the Byte community and how Clash handled the new Byte, handled the Byte takeover. And I know there could be more to this besides me, Shadowminer, and Eric. However, I'm not sure if those people would like to talk about what happened on Byte. Because I know there are a few people that enjoyed being part of Byte, and I still connect with people that were part of the Byte community. In fact, the Byte Homies Discord server, that is still going on to this day. There's still activity going on that server, and every Friday, I think a few of the Gen X, maybe a couple baby boomer Byte users, they they gather around together on voice chat on the Byte Homies Discord server, talking to each other, discussing life in general, events goes on, and so on, which is nice because even though the original Byte app is long gone, it's nice to see that people are still getting in touch and talking about life, which is nice. Now, I was talking about the Clash team. Yeah, so to recap, since the acquisition, not many people in the bike community liked it. Fair enough. And since the merger, the Clash team were not updating the Byte users as much as the old OG Byte team did. Like people in the Byte community would like knowing about what's going on or what are the updates. They like being in the know, like Shadowminer once said. The Clash team, the only updates they give is like bug fixes, which they say they do fit, they have fixed. Only a few weeks later, it will just come back and only affect a selected amount of users. But again, that's just me. I never had issues with Clash. I never had issues talking with people on the Clash team. The reason I say these things and the reason I mention them, because that is what that's what other people in the Byte community have said. Just because my life on Byte had been going so great, that does not excuse the struggle and the problematic situations that other people in the Byte community have went through. Like they they've had it a lot hard on Byte. Like I did. I've had life hard. I've been so much worse days. I've seen worse days, and same can be said for people that were in the Byte community. There were times that there had been arguments, like the arguments, the beefs, and the wars that I've already mentioned within the Byte community forums, and the discussion that happened on the OG Byte community Discord server. Like we've been through crap, and we will go through more crap in life. What's important is we stand strong and we keep moving forward. So I think I've yeah. So Clash team, Clash team. Now the Clash team also set up their own Discord server, and yeah. So just like with the OG Byte community Discord server, the Clash team also set up their own Discord server just to allow people to communicate with the Clash team directly. Now, they may not update as much as the OG Byte team did, but at least there was the illusion, or at least the access to talk with the staff. I recall I talked to Corey Clem. He was part of the Clash team. The only time I ever talked to him was regarding the hoodie, the Clash hoodie, which also had the Byte logo on the sleeves. But at least they tried to acknowledge that this used to be part of the Byte community. They may have made mistakes, and I know that what Shadowminer said about the Clash team, they spent the money they gained from they were supposed to spend on for Clash. They've used it for parties and house parties and yachts and okay, but I'm not sure they bought yachts, but I think from the two-parter Byte episode, Shadowminer did say that there were business expenses that the Clash team could have used to help with Clash. They've blown it off on like with parties other other fun stuff like that. So hearing that's not pretty good. That is bad. Hearing that is not good at all. Now I did say the worst is yet to come. We have reached the peak of what was worst yet to come. Actually, no, I haven't got to that part yet. Now, now, a lot of you may be wondering, is Clash still around? And to answer that question, no. The Clash app that was once the OG Byte app no longer exists. I still have the app, but it's not available on the App Store. Like, if you try searching it up now, you can't find it. It's gone. It just vanished, vamoosh somewhere. Now, one more thing before not hearing much from them, and this is actually something I'm saying that was worse yet to come. To think that the the drama in the summer of 2020 and the communication with the Clash team wasn't as bad as it may have been to most people. The Clash team made a major announcement in regards to joining a bigger creator family. Yes, they said that right. They said around of May of 2023. No, I skipped ahead a bit. Actually, a few months before May 2023, in the start of 2023, Clash announced that the Clash app is going to be rebranded as Huddles. Yes, you heard that right. Clash is going to be rebranded as Huddles. As if the rebrand from Byte to Clash is as controversial already. Clash to Huddles. What's the use? What's the need for that? It, I'm actually more baffled at that than anything. Especially more baffled about what is to gain from I've lost track. But yeah, it's just wild to me. And then of May 2023, Huddles, which is now called from Clash, that used to be Clash, they announced that they will discontinue being a standalone app. They are saying they're going to transition into a web-based platform. Like, they're going from being an app into being a platform where you can still post videos like you did on Vine and whatnot. But this was only done on a website, on a web browser, instead of on an app. It's just on a website alone. And after they made that announcement, May 2023, they were going to transition to a bigger creator family, preferably on the website, on a web browser. That was the last time I've ever heard from the Clash team, or the Huddles team they're now called, ever again. And that is the history, roughly. I hope it wasn't. I tried to be brief with it, but well, I drifted off a bit. The history of the original Byte, and I know, even though I tried explaining everything, I know people are still going to have loads of questions about this, that. Actually, I can't. That the issue is, I don't know what the questions would be, and I know I'll have the answer it, knowing what the question is. I, there's just so many questions. I'm not sure which is going to stand out more to people. The fact that they rebranded Byte to Clash. Why can't they just put up ads? That's just from the top of my head. I need more time to think about what questions could rise from this. However, OG Byte has been quite the roller coaster, but I don't want to leave off on a negative note. Looking back through the history, there have been positive moments on Byte. Like, I remember the banana the banana wars. I think that was part of. Actually, ever since Byte existed, Byte launched publicly from January 24th, 2020. Fast forward a couple months from that, that was an account called LMBB, which is short for Late Night Bytes Brigade. This account was run by Mr. Davis and Marlin Smash, and what they do is each week a creator comes up with a challenge for other Byte users to do and trying to create Byte videos that relates to that challenge, and the creator that is running the challenge, they decide on the shoutouts, the runners up, and whichever creator wins the challenge for the week, and the winner of the challenge organized by that creator for LMBB will then be the creator that organizes the challenge for next week. Now, this seems similar to Eurovision, where countries compete in whatever in the city of the country that won Eurovision last year. The country that wins Eurovision that year, they get to host Eurovision for next year. Likewise for LMBB. The creator that proposes a challenge to Byte users, they've won last week's LMBB challenge. The creator for this week's LMBB challenge chooses the winner, who that creator thinks has done the best, or I'm not sure what the criteria was for LMBB, but I think it came down to the content creator that won last week who created the challenge. Whenever content creator wins this week's LMBB challenge, will then host next week's LMBB challenge, and they get to decide what the challenge is. So it could be cooking or cities, cartoons or Hollywood. The challenges are endless. And this is one of the greatest moments of LMBB. I love doing those challenges. I have gotten a couple of shoutouts in the past. It's been great. But of course, the winners have been worthwhile, absolutely, thankfully. Nonetheless, it was a great moment, LMBB. And even when Clash took over and then we ran into huddles for whatever reason, the spirit of LMBB still kept going. Because no matter what terrible things happen, it was strong. There was something to distract us from all the madness that goes on. It's a place to have fun and be creative, and I like that. Another iconic moment that stood out to me from Byte was, yeah, another thing that stood out to me from our time from Byte was, and I already mentioned this like nearly an hour ago in the recording, like loop.lol, when that was launched back in, hold on, I've said it in the announcements. Rest in peace, loop. Yeah, April 1st of 2024, that's when loop.lol was launched publicly for a brief amount of time before closing it out to just people from the US, and only people in the US. But then that was funny because I managed to get onto loop.lol before it was no longer available to people outside the US. I had posted videos on there at the time. Yeah, but that's just me. That was confusing. However, there were many moments from Byte, but even though Byte's no longer in existence, at least the original OG Byte, there were a handful of people from the Byte community that did come over to loop.lol, and they posted content like they did in the Byte days, and it was nice seeing them again. It's great. And of course, just like with Byte, loop.lol didn't last that long. It only lasted a whole month. And they were mostly in beta. So yeah, it was very sad. It was time worth spent. It was time well spent. Now, in regards to time within Byte, it's still LMBB, man. It still stands out to me. Those were the days. Oh right, another one. I remember when Byte was still around. Dom Hoffman was trying to get some sponsorships. Dom Hoffman was trying to get sponsorships to sponsor Byte in hopes keep to generate some kind of money, or at least have to earn revenue for Byte's service to be maintained, as well as the staff to be getting the salary. So yeah, and even though I've said that Byte had financial problems from the very start, Don Hoffman did all he can to keep Byte afloat. And I think a sponsorship with Nike, where there was a page dedicated to just Nike, and the buttons were Nike shaped, like the like button was shaped like the Nike logo. That was pretty cool. Otherwise, that was pretty good. It was a pretty good iconic moment for Nike to have a presence on Byte as ways to keep Byte afloat, even though time was less short. Again, time well spent. And of course, there were other moments in Byte that I could recall. I think knowing the impact Byte had for those content creators. Sorry, I was just checking something. Yeah, I miss Byte, man. And I know people come at me saying, "Oh, let Byte die, it's in the past, let it go, man." You know what, fair enough. I can't argue with that. However, during Byte struggles and whatnot, again, I'm not going to leave it on a negative note. There is good coming from Byte. Like, the community is still strong. There have been good moments. There were times that there were divisions that were broke free. And even the passion people had passion for Byte so strong. We thought, you know what? Let's try our best to bring it back. And that's what me, Eric, and Shadowminer had planned on doing for the last 2 years. And the reason why that this came to be is because back when I was on Byte, well, you certainly know the regulars, the co-hosts, Eric and Risk 11. In fact, the first time I met Risk 11 and Eric Taylor were all on Byte, but the first person I met was Risk 11. What is it, Eric? I think I met Eric first. Oh, I don't know, man. Actually, I met Risk 11 first because Eric came onto Byte from Clash. Yeah, so the first time I met Risk was on Byte. He he was proposing creating a content creation group, which I was interested in being a part of. I asked to be a part of it, and he said, "Yeah, sure, you can join." And I was sending Risk 11 content clips to post on the Team Sketch account. That's the name of the content creator group. Now, I will say that I hate it. I hate it as much as you hate hearing it. Now, although this was not a big event on Byte at the time, in regards to Team Sketch, the content creator group, me, Risk, and Eric, there had been issues in the past. Like the first time I've met Risk, I think he would constantly tag other big bike creators that I'd known from the very start to like his videos. Now, of course, he doesn't do that now. I don't think he does it anymore. I don't think he wants to be seen on camera anymore. I think he just likes talking and making. Man, Risk 11, he changed a lot over the years. At first, when I first met Risk, he wanted to make content. He wanted to be the biggest content creator in the world. Over time, when we got into discussions about geopolitics and world events and the Rothschilds and the the elites and whatnot, yeah, Risk has become a completely different person since then. But nonetheless, it's been a great ride. It's been great knowing Risk and Eric Taylor, and I hope to continue that for many, many years to come. Now, bugger, I was gonna. Oh yes, I was talking about trying to bring Byte back, and I was getting into the history of how I met the guys that to where I am today. So met Risk, had some issues, become great friends, and I think Faithy, now known as Frankie, was also part of Team Sketch, but like over a year or two ago, I think Frankie left because, well, like I said, there's always been issues within Team Sketch and our operations. Uh, Risk 11, he's on the right side of the aisle, and Frankie, she says she's on the left side of the aisle, although Eric argues that, and I think Eric has said that, I think Faithy knows the issues that goes on, but she doesn't want to acknowledge it. She just wants to live in her own bubble. She wants to be happy and positive. and I agree with that. I agree with Frankie on that. Don't want to be negative all the time. However, negative stuff is gonna happen. Okay, I have never rambled so much in an episode. Okay, but I know why I'm mentioning this. I know why I'm mentioning me meeting Risk 11 and Eric Taylor, forming Team Sketch. One night, me, Risk, and Eric, and also Shadowminer, because I asked him if he wants to be part of Team Sketch. He said yes. And actually, for a brief time, we were all part of Team Sketch and making content together. One night, Risk 11 created a meeting in regards to being active and being consistent, because he wants. Because I think at the time, Risk 11 would like us to make content at least every other day, at least a couple times a week. And there was a period of time that, well, we haven't done anything in the entire month, and the month after that, or the month before that. And I think I'm not sure if it's the same time period that Eric mentioned that he called out Risk 11 for not being active in gathering us together to make content. But I think one time we did have a meeting, a Team Sketch related meeting. Me, Eric, and Shadowminer. We still kept talking about. Look, we were talking about at the time when Clash announced that they were they have going to take over Clash. No, I think it was around 2020. Yeah, I think it was around 2022 when this happened. Yeah, I think it was summer of 2022. Me, Eric, and Shadowminer, we were talking about the debacle that was going on Clash and how they were operating things. Although they weren't too aware about what was going on. I think at the time Shadowminer was pretty fed up, and he genuinely missed being part of a creative community, and Byte also, but mainly Byte. But nonetheless, me, Eric, and Jacob, we were talking about trying to bring up Byte. However, at the time, we weren't too sure if Clash had the naming rights to Byte, which, spoiler alert, which turns out the Clash team didn't want anything to do with Byte. They didn't want to use the logo anymore, they didn't want to use the name anymore. So, yeah, Shadowmine also said that he and the Clash team were in discussions at some point. I think this was at the same time that they were shutting down the Clash Discord server, so actually I don't know why they want to shut down the Discord. I don't know why Clash want to shut down their own Discord server, but I did know they shut it down for some reason, and when people found out, they were not happy about that. However, we all said that we were committed and dedicated to bring back what was once lost, just like Dom Hoffman did with Vine. But of course, it wasn't at first. It was not easy. The process to bring back Byte started off with what name are we going to give it? Because again, this is at the time we weren't too sure if the naming rights of Byte was still under Clash. Jacob was so how do I say that? Jacob was very determined to bring back Byte to its rawest, to its purest extent. Like the last time we remembered what Byte looked like before Clash merged with the OG Byte app, that's how much, that's how far Jacob wanted to go to bring back Byte. Now, again, we didn't know what Byte was. I don't know if the Byte name was under Clash Inc., but the name we could have gone with was Bit. But now, knowing that we have the naming rights to Byte, which now is under Sagomatic Studios LLC, which is the company that Jacob Shadowminer runs. So, yay, we got the naming right. I think we're still going to use Bit, but I think that's for another platform that's going to be part of the Sagomatic universe that Shadowminer likes calling it. However, when we first had discussions about bringing back Byte, we weren't too sure what to call it in the event that we couldn't get the Byte name, and this is a very important one. we're not coders. We do not know how to make an app to begin with. And I think one of the people from the Gen Z side of Byte also argued when he found out that Shadowminer was going to bring back Byte, like, how are you going to bring back Byte if you don't know basic coding? And he was right, and he's right about that. Coding is very important in making an app. If you don't know how to code, then, well, you're not going to get much out of it. However, Shadowminer did take time for the last 2 years since having the first discussion to bring back Byte. He was going to take some spare time out of his day to learn a bit of coding. I think he said he already knows how to code Python. I don't know what it was called, but I know there was one coding language that Shadowminer said he does know. And he's also trying to learn how to do different coding strategies and techniques that he would use to help with bringing back Byte. And I think as of this releasing, I think Jacob now knows what he's doing. He knows exactly how making an app goes. He knows the business world. He knows the industry. When we first discussed that, we were having discussions about this with two people that came over to the new Byte app that's now rebranded to Clash from the OG Clash app. Very, very confusing. Those two people were Carson and Kyle Harris. Those two lads came from the OG Clash app that merged with the new Clash app, which had the OG Byte community. Those two lads, along with me, Eric, and Jacob, we were having discussions back and forth about bringing back Byte after Clash rebranded everything and merged all into one. And I think Kyle was most vocal about trying to. Yeah, I think Kyle Harris was the most vocal. Like he wasn't too harsh, he was not too critical, but he did gave very, very good points. I think Kyle definitely gave us a reality check in terms of trying to make an app to begin with. Never mind bringing back Byte, because knowing how to make an app is very important, and Kyle really gave us a reality check. And I think over the 2 years, that has helped all of us realize what it really takes to bring Byte. And when Byte does come back in a week or two, at least, Shadowminer says he's going to make an update video in a couple of days from now. Everything is all coming to plan. Now, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be exactly like how Byte was before Clash took over. However, it's a start. And I know when the Byte community hears about this, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be great. I'm very excited. I'm not expecting the new revamped Byte to be an overnight success. I'm not expecting the revamped Byte to get million of active users weekly, or nor I am ever expecting for Byte to actually compete with the likes of TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or whatever social media platforms. But just know that there's progress being made in the making. Once the revamped Byte does launch, it's going to be great. It's going to be a bumpy ride, but what's important is the journey. And I'm so glad over the 2 years that after a reality check from good old Kyle and of course great support from Carson as well, it's been great. And of course over the 2 years, I have also gave ideas to Shadowminer in regards to how to go ahead with bringing back Byte and maybe new changes as well to the new revamped Byte. However, I am very optimistic with what I'm suggesting to Jacob. So when when the revamped Byte does launch again, not all of the ideas I have suggested, nor that I want to have in place, are all going to be there. But over time, one by one, everything that I would envision for Byte, as well as suggestions by the Byte community, which is actually going to be another backbone to the revamped Byte alongside Byte Spheres, which is a new name for the Byte community forums. These are going to be the few driving factors in which the new revamped Byte is going to run off of. And I think looking back in the history of the Byte app, the struggles the Byte community has went through, the generational divide, apparently, all of the tea that has been spelled, the Clash team in general, although some people I know would usually call them the Turtle Bros. I don't know, but I just find that funny. Or at least I find it funny. And the determination that me, Eric, Shadowminer, and a couple other people of the new Byte team have to bring back the revamped Byte. It's been a ride. It's been an adventurous journey. And what is to come next, in the next few years, for the revamped Byte is going to be astonishing. I cannot wait. I'm very excited. It's not gonna happen all at once, and not everything is gonna happen instantly. But what's important is we're making a start, and we actually get off on our feet. And yes, that is the episode. Yes, I understand. I don't know either. I wanted to keep it brief. However, I'm always rambling on. That just shows that I enjoy being part of the bike community. It's actually one of the reasons I am the person that I am today. Well, other than the struggles of life that I've been through. But other than that, I'm excited to see what's to come to Byte, and yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. And of course, other than bringing back the community spirit of Byte, I do think that Byte is going to make some kind of innovation and revolution to the internet space in the next few years. At least in terms of because I know the ideas I suggested to Jacob, they're absolutely revolutionary. And I'm determined to not just bring back the community that Byte once had, but also make Byte an integral part to the future of the internet. And of course, in regards to one episode that I have made quite recently in regards to the very famous pop singer, rest in peace, send condolences to friends and family of his, tackle like the biggest issues that goes on in the internet. Like, what are we hearing right now? Is there any context to this? Does this make any sense? Like, these issues on social media and on the internet, these are issues I have thought about for a long time. If Byte's going to come back with the community that has built over the years, I would also like Byte to be the app that brings justice, hope, clarity, certification, and most importantly, the unity of the people that use it. The power of the people is what matters. Doesn't matter what the higher ups, the elites, and whatever groups of people that are in charge of whatever national governments. Not that I have a problem with national governments, but when you're in positions of power, something is bound to happen. There's always going to be issues somewhere along the way. And with the bike community and the encouragement of community input and always speaking out on what goes on in this world, that's what I hope to bring to Byte, the community, and the impact that Byte will have to not just social media in general, but also how we consume information on the internet. And with that being said, until next time, stay tuned for more.